When you know that you are queer, but your favorite drink is beer, that's gayish. You can bottom without stopping, but you can't stand going shopping, that's gayish. Oh, gayish, you're probably gayish. Well, life's just too short for narrow stereotypes, so it's gayish. We're also gayish. It's Gayish with Mike and Kyle.
Hello, everyone in the podcast universe. This is Gayish.
The podcast that doesn't care who you are, where you're from, what you did, as long as you fuck me.
Oh, Kyle.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you so much. BSB.
Wow. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz.
We're here to bridge the gap between sexuality and actuality. And today, I'm just, wait, hold on. I'm still reveling in that glorious performance.
Yeah, sure. I'm so glad. You know, this is what I bring to the table day in and day out to this. I work tirelessly at it, and I'm here for you.
You've really honed your craft.
Yeah. Champion podcaster.
Do we have to add that to the list now?
Yes,
like we do. Parody versions of a song. Does that get the song?
I think that still counts as the song appeared in the, and there's going to be such youngins that just have no idea what I'm talking about, which that's okay.
Yeah. That song transcends time and space though.
Does it?
I think so.
Okay. Good.
All right. Today we're going to talk about PFLAG.
We're going to talk about PFLAG.
We are pleased, privileged, happy,
honored
to have Brian Bond on with us. Who he runs it or something.
He's the executive director of PFLAG.
Well, we'll talk to him in just a little bit and learn all about this PFLAG thing.
Yeah.
But first. So Kyle.
Yeah, Mike.
I'm not sure.
What?
I don't know. It just, whenever we don't have anything to talk about before we go to the news, I feel like it's too fast.
I don't know but you've said that like for hundreds of episodes and I don't know how to help you out.
All right, great.
Do you want to
news?
Oh.
Do I want to what?
Do you want to chit chat about something? How's your day going?
It's, it's fine.
Okay.
I'm tired.
Okay.
I went home, which I'll talk about more later, but who doesn't love Eastern Washington in spring?
I hear it's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, it's fine. No, let's just do the news.
Okay.
Shut your mouth hole. It's time for your ear holes. News.
News the first, Kyle. Kind of an update on a story, but also maybe not. It's just news or something. I don't know. But Pope Leo the 14th, the new Pope.
Yeah, this happened so quick.
The baby Pope has begun his papacy by affirming that the family is, quote, founded upon the stable union between a man and a woman. Oh, God.
It was just last week that you were like, we'll see, let's give him a chance to express what he feels. And maybe he's evolved in his thinking for, like 10 plus years after he said the first thing he said. And we were going to give him a chance. And then right away.
Well, okay. So, yes. And Pope Francis also said that marriage is between one man and one woman. And he said a lot of really sort of mitigating things about the LGBTQ community in the context of the Catholic Church, like the who am I to judge? And he even said that it was okay to do blessings for same-sex couples, just can't call them marriages or weddings and have to bless the individuals, not their relationship to each other, which is just like, that's like, he's basically advocating like, let's follow the letter, but not the spirit of the law on like church law on this. So I'm not necessarily taking it as the like giant gotcha doom and gloom about the new Pope that gay news outlets seem to be trying to paint this as today. Pope Francis also said the same thing and turned out to be pretty chill. So I'm willing to say that the jury is out, but also the scale is very different. The bar for like good is bad for the Pope,
Yeah. Okay. I disagree with you. I think fuck that guy.
Okay,
And
great.
we need someone that is completely on our side. And I don't think you get to like hedge your bets anymore. Like that's not where we're at. You don't get to say one thing and then say like, but they can be blessed on an individual level. And then that mitigates what you said. No, fuck that guy. I hate him.
Well, he's dead.
Not that guy.
This new guy.
The new guy.
Fuck that guy and the dress he rode in on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great. Yeah, Catholic Church, get your shit together.
Right now. Do it right now. You haven't thought about it until this very moment that we're raising the awareness, but get your shit together right now.
Yeah. You don't have time. You don't have time for taking your time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't have any.
Yeah.
All right, great. News the second.
Yeah.
So there's been a preliminary vote in favor of repealing the anti-sodomy laws in Texas, in the Texas House of Representatives.
Wow.
So because of Lawrence v. Texas, which made butt sex legal in the whole country, the state of Texas, like a lot of conservative states, still has laws on the books against gay people doing gay stuff. They're just unenforceable because the Supreme Court said that, no, you have to be down with butt sex nationwide. Mm-hmm. But so like Colorado just a few weeks ago or months ago was working on getting rid of the definition of marriage that's in their constitution. In case Obergefell v. Hodges gets overturned by this Supreme Court filled with dickbag fuckface assholes. Similarly, other states are trying to clean up their language about things like reproductive rights and gay rights in case things get worse. And it's just interesting to see it also happening then in a super ultra conservative place like Texas.
Yeah, I'm very surprised by that. And that's really nice. That it's happening in not just liberal states, but also in conservative states. I would hope that it would happen in every state, that they'd clean up and update their language, and that they've evolved from when they first passed some of those laws that are still on the books technically.
Yep. Well, yep, absolutely. And I think Texas is sort of a special case for me. Anyway, I'll let me finish the facts here, and then I'll get to my editorializing. Thursday's House vote was 72-55, according to the Dallas Morning News, which is the furthest that a repeal bill has progressed against Texas's anti-sodomy laws. And it is a weird coalition of people that got together to do it. There's 3 Democrats that are sponsors, but also 2 Republicans, Brian Harrison and Dade Phelan. And Harrison is not a friend of ours, but he said, quote, "Criminalizing homosexuality is not the role of the government, and I support repealing it. I will continue consistently fighting for limited government and individual liberty." And here's the thing that I wanted to say, editorializing. My sense of Texas has always been that they prefer to have like no rules at all. Like they are super duper ultra conservative, and like they barely force people to wear seatbelts there because freedom or whatever.
Yeah, they like to pretend like they're their own nation and do what they want there.
But also like have like, it's like the Wild West, like it's libertarian is the word that I think that I'm trying to come up with, of like they legit prefer to just have no laws about people's lives at all. Like you have drive-through liquor stores, and like there's like no open container law in some parts of the state, and there's like you can put a straw on a piece of paper on top of the straw, and that makes it a closed container for driving around with booze in your car. It's just they're like they don't give a fuck. Yeah,
but it's not like New Orleans or anything. It's not that extreme, or like Vegas or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. There's just it's wild to me. It's not that surprising to me. I think that hoping that other conservative states will follow suit is don't hold your breath.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Texas is extra hands off about shit, even butt sex.
I guess so. Like it's good to hear that Republican being like, it's not our job to criminalize gay people. That's cool. That's a cool take.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see what happens. It still has to pass out of the House by like the full House or whatever, and then it goes to the Senate, and then it's got to be signed by the shitbird governor. So we'll see. But Senator Ted Cruz apparently is in favor of repealing it.
Huh.
He called it uncommonly silly, the anti-sodomy law.
Huh.
Which, okay, great.
Ted Cruz loves sodomy. I had no idea.
He definitely does.
I can't make fun of the people that are supporting it for supporting it. That's bad form.
Ted Cruz loves sodomy. You heard it here. News of the last, Kyle.
Okay.
Yeah. Democrat John Ewing, who is a man of color, will be the next mayor of Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh.
He defeated longtime Republican incumbent Gene Stothert 56-44%. Kind of a bloodbath, especially considering that it's like the reddest of the red states ever. All cities are a little bit blue or purple, and Omaha's no exception to that. But like this was kind of a walkaway race for a Democrat of color in like that cracker white super red universe that is Nebraska.
Did you say 66-44?
56-44.
Okay, that adds up. Okay, the math wasn't mathing to me. Okay.
Mayor Stothert had blanketed airwaves and mailboxes with anti-trans ads and tried to turn the race into a referendum on gender identity. Nebraska Democrats didn't flinch. They doubled down. They mocked her message and pointed out the absurdity of making trans issues a centerpiece in a race fundamentally about roads, housing, and city governance. And the city's citizens of Omaha agreed. They did not like her attempt to use trans people as a wedge issue and told her that she needed to, quote, focus on fixing the potholes.
Yeah. Like do stuff that actually fucking matters. Like fix the roads and the infrastructure and help people afford homes, or I don't know, do shit that's going to matter.
Yep. Do shit that's going to matter. It's my like new favorite thing to say to transphobes on Twitter, actually, is like care about something that matters or is actually happening.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, that's the news, Kyle.
That's the news. Speaking of things that are actually happening, our Patreon is happening place to be. If you want to get ad-free episodes a day early, if you want to support the show, if you want to use Mike's hole,
use my hole,
then go to patreon.com/gayish podcast. Oh, I didn't say the new Patreon member. Whoops.
Oh, I was wondering if there were maybe not any of those to share with me, in which case I was going to yell at everyone. So
no, you don't have to yell. Thank you to Bruce Venardi.
Thanks, Bruce. Are you related to Bruce Valanche?
I don't know who that is or why their first name would make them a relation.
Some old queen out there is laughing their ass off, Kyle.
Okay. Name association. Hilarious. You got this, Mike. Okay. Join our Patreon, gayishpodcast.com. Nope. Patreon.com/gayishpodcast.
Get it.
Do you want to talk about PFLAG?
Let's talk about PFLAG, Kyle.
What is your experience with PFLAG?
Very, very limited. I know that they are an organization that exists. I see them at Pride, usually just hugging people, and they have pins sometimes.
Yeah.
End of list. How about you?
Yeah, no, pretty much about the same. I wish my parents would have joined some kind of organization like this when I came out. They kind of had to go through all this on their own, and like they were trying to get me resources to like be okay, and I wanted them to like get their own resources because they needed support. They went through a lot when I came out and just basically didn't want to talk to people about it, and I was like wanted them to get a therapist or wanted them to like read books or do something, and they just didn't. I think the process was harder than it needed to be if only they found other people that were like them. Because I grew up in the suburbs of Houston, so we could have found a Houston organization where people would not be like the crazy, queers folk mom, blasting their support from every street corner, but could have been more like them and like had a hard time and came through with, understanding and acceptance. Like, I think they could have met some people that were like them.
But do you think, how would they have found out, right? Like, did you ever like hand them the here's the flyer for the chapter? Or
I forget. I think I remember telling them that there were resources out there. I don't remember if I said specifically like go to a PFLAG meeting or not. I don't remember.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there is a PFLAG Texas or Houston. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I wonder if parents realize when they have a gay kid that they're not alone. It's a funny thing. Like, I don't know what it's like to be a parent, to know what it's like to have your kid come out, to know what my instincts would be about like how to process my feelings or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you are allowed to go through a lot and have a lot of challenges that you have to overcome personally. And that's okay. Like, don't use your child that came out to you as your sounding board for this. They are not your support system. You need to have other support systems outside of your child. And PFLAG is one of those really helpful places that you can go for support.
Yeah. Huh. Well, PFLAG. Oh, we should have said this, or maybe we'll say it when Brian is on. But it's parents and friends of lesbians and gays. Okay. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to have Brian Bond, who's important.
Executive director,
executive director of PFLAG, to tell us all things PFLAG. Are you ready to take a break, Kyle?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Let's find some parents and friends.
Okay.
Because we're gay.
We're gay. Yep. Break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
Are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
We're here with Brian Bond. Thanks so much for being here, Brian.
Thanks for being on the show, Brian.
It's a pleasure to be with you all. Happy Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, same to you. So we are a little confused because there's the PFLAG website and there's the Wikipedia article about PFLAG, and they disagree on your title. Are you the executive director, CEO? Who are you?
Chief Executive Officer is what the PFLAG website says.
The reality is I'm just going to flip that a little bit and say I have the pleasure of working for some of the most incredible parents, family members, and allies across the country in our 350 plus chapters and 550 some thousand supporters. But I guess here at the office, I'm the CEO.
Okay. Great. I love that, though, because it really is an organization that is grassroots based, chapter based, local based.
Very much so. Very much so. And every chapter is different, has its own flavor.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about it just in broad terms. PFLAG. What is PFLAG? What's the sort of, one or two paragraph what PFLAG is and what it does?
Sure. And I'll start again. I always like to give my observation first, and then I can give you the formal answer. But PFLAG really is the most incredible organization, as you mentioned, community-based, made up of parents, family members, allies, and LGBTQ plus people that just want to see this community thrive, want their family and friends and colleagues to be safe. We were founded by Jean Manford, a mom who's a school teacher, math teacher, actually in New York, in Queens, in 1973. It was a collaboration between her and her husband, but her son, Morty, who was very engaged in queer politics at the time. And the conversation came up about the importance of having parents' voices in the conversation. So Jean basically decided it was time to get off the sidewalk and into the street and march with her kid and other queer folks to ensure that we're given equal rights, treated equally, and allowed to thrive. That's not the comms answer, but that's my answer to it anyway.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. So what is the comms version of that then? Like what?
So we're first and largest organization for parents, family members, allies, LGBTQ plus individuals working to create a more caring and just and affirming world. We have three pillars of work. The first being support. The second being education, the third being advocacy. And you can see how those three pillars have kind of played out over the past 50 some years, 52 years. I'm of a certain age here that, there was a point and a time when very few, if any, parents would talk publicly about having a queer kid and needed somewhere to go. So they would go to PFLAG support meetings for support. And I'm also 17 years sober. So those that are familiar with that would know a PFLAG meeting is much like that, in that you walk in, it's a confidential space to this day, where a parent can kick the tires and ask any question that they may have about how best to support their kid or their family member. Education being the second area, and that has many different tools, if you will. From, the Kiwanis Club, the Rotary Club, speaking at schools, being present at festivals, doing programs like this. And the third is advocacy. And I would say now more than ever, the advocacy component of that is probably the most critical and the most engaged. There are still parts of the country. Let me be very clear. There are parts of the country where coming out is still a traumatic experience and dangerous, right, for anybody that's LGBT, questioning other, whatever it may be. But more parents these days are coming to us saying, I love my trans kid. I love my queer kid. How can I help? And so there's a little bit of a shift from, a significant shift, I would say, from the support component pillar, if you will, to where we are now, more into the education and the advocacy. But I do not want to take away from the fact that there are still many places around the country where parents are uncomfortable coming out, kids are uncomfortable telling their parents. So we still have much work to do in that space as well. But certainly advocacy is taking a larger role right now.
Have you seen any shifts in either the people that join or your organization with the new administration?
Yes. I think we had, I'm going to get the numbers a little bit wrong, but don't hold me to it. But, we had a significant increase of individuals reaching out to form new chapters after the election, going into the inauguration. I think, though, right now today, I'm guessing since the inauguration, I think it's about 20 new chapters, which is usually what we would have through the whole year, right? And it's not an easy process to become a PFLAG chapter. There's a C3 component, right? There's a board and governance component. There's a sustainability component to it. So there are checks and balances in place to try to make sure that chapter is able to grow and to thrive. So the fact that many chapters have come around or have come into fruition so far is telling. The other thing I would add, and I know folks can't see it, but you all will, I carry this little piece of paper around. My team is sick of this, I'm sure, but I carry this little piece of paper around that I literally show everywhere. I was on a red carpet with Annette Benning and I pulled it out. This is my pride and joy. This is a list of the new chapters in the last 2.5 years, and 84 new chapters in the last 2.5 years. And there are places like Cullman, Alabama, Jennings, Louisiana, Floyd, Virginia. And in fact, just last week, a new chapter started in Mocksville, Davie County, North Carolina, which it would take 13 of them to make Seattle.
Wow.
And the majority of the sizes of these new chapters is, I think, the important part and kind of the special sauce here. These are in smaller communities in tough areas, right? And everybody knows them, right? If you're going to do narrative shift work and advocacy work and commonality and community, those are the building blocks for a fairer and more just world, in my humble opinion. I don't know if that answered your question. Sorry, I may have got a little off. I get a little excited about my little prop.
No, that's great. It sounds like people have used a shitty situation and used it as a catalyst for positive change, which is what kind of the best that we can do, given the state of the country right now.
I think that's right. I mean, in my mind, we have two goals right now. One is to mitigate as much harm as possible out there. And the second is to build stronger local communities, changing narrative, making people or ensuring people can be safe, helping them be safe. But laying a foundation, because this will not, we have an opportunity with all the bad shit, excuse my language, that's going on right now. That door has been opened, right? To have conversations. The issue is, are we going to have those conversations? And how are we having those conversations to change minds and hearts? Some people, and I'm from a rural area, some people need to hunker down for their own safety. Let's just be very clear, because it's rough out there. But those who have the ability to, this is the time and opportunity to speak up and use our voices in support of the rest of our community.
You mentioned being rural yourself. Tell us a little bit about you. What is your story? Where did you come from? How did you land in the office that you're sitting in right now?
So I grew up in rural Missouri. I tell the story quite often. I was more comfortable with my 2,000-pound steer Rufus in high school than I was my peers in school. I did a face-to-face confession with my priest. And when I was 15, 16, and I told him I was gay and was going to go to hell. And I'm 63, so this was a while back, right? And his response was, you're not going to go to hell, but you're going to want to move because you're not going to be happy here.
Wow.
And to this day, we still stay in touch. He's an incredible human being. In fact, not bragging when I say this, but just to give context, when President Obama's memoirs came out, I'm in it a couple of times around Don't Ask, Don't Tell work. And I get this text from Father Fergus saying, I'm so proud of you. I'm like, excuse me, what are you talking about, Father? And he sent me the 2 pages. And I was like, oh. So the fact that he was proud of me for the work done on Don't Ask, Don't Tell says a lot. It also tells me, not everybody's had that experience, and I know that. But it told me, what he told me and what I got out of the experience was, I have a little bit of a responsibility here. I've been pretty blessed in life to try to pay it forward. So I got out where I grew up and got involved in politics because I really feel like that is, for me at least, that was how I felt like I could try to make change and have impact. So I did various campaigns, worked for the Democratic National Committee, ended up working for Valerie Jarrett and President Obama at the White House. Years before that, I ran the Gay and Lesbian Victory Fund, where Tammy Baldwin was one of my first candidates when she ran for Congress.
Wow.
And then this position opened up at PFLAG after Hillary had lost. And I was on the convention team and had every intention of going into the administration and did some stuff in between. This position came open. And honestly, I'll just be very frank. When the position came open, I thought, what could be better than working with people who love us, parents, family? And that's before shit hit the fan, candidly, right? And then all of a sudden, the bad bills start coming in. The Trump administration, just this flurry of hate and visceral reaction to us as a community, especially our trans loved ones. And so what I thought was going to be just a fun kind of, okay, I'm going to admit it, go to some parades and put out some good publications and work on some easy narrative, or not easy, but sustainable narrative work turned into a fight for our lives. Right? And that's where we are right now. We will win this, but we are in a battle right now in a moment.
Your energy is so positive and hopeful and gracious, and you show a lot of gratitude. And I don't want to be a big downer, but like with the world that we live in today, how How do you keep that? How do you keep that energy going? Can I have what you're having?
I have my moments, but I'm really blessed. I get to see incredible people out there doing doing the good work and putting themselves at risk. How can I sit here in DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C., and not give it my best or try to give it my best to support those folks from our community that are struggling, but are getting up every day and being visible when they can, and just want to be themselves, right? And I know it's going to be an ugly few years here, but again, they opened the door. How are we coming into this fight? Are we bringing our full selves to this? Do we deserve it? I guess is the question. Yes, we do, right? We deserve this. So how do we, we're a little organization compared to some, but we have 350 chapters around the country that touch people everywhere, right? How do we as an organization, that's what keeps me awake, is how do we best support them? I like quoting, the book of Esther of, such a time as this, and it makes me sound smarter. This is such a time as this. And we went through this. I'm also HIV positive. We went through this during the HIV AIDS epidemic, right? And we came out of it stronger because of that. And I see people building community everywhere we go. I won't say we got the easy stuff out of the way because it's still hard, but compared to what is now is going to be rough, and we've got to be committed to do it because most people can't leave, right? Most people have to live where they are. Most people don't have that privilege. So how do we support them?
So I wanted to ask you, you say that there's 350 some odd chapters in the country. And so I imagine 350 different flavors of this ice cream. But if somebody has never been to a chapter meeting before, what might they expect? What's that experience like going in there?
Sure. So because of COVID, a lot of our chapters also have virtual meetings, so that's a little bit different. But it's when somebody finds out about, sadly, sometimes I think PFLAG is the best kept secret in the world. So we're working on that. But you go into a meeting, there is no value judgment against you when you walk in that meeting. That's my hope. That's what happens, what I hear obviously sometimes something may happen, but for the norm of our chapters is you walk in, you are not judged. You are allowed to share your fears or your ignorance, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, your concerns and or just questions you think are silly. There's no stupid question at a PFLAG meeting. Every question you ask may very well save some kid's life and or keep some family together. Now, meetings will have programming or just support meetings or both or breakouts. We also now do, because of the virtual world, we do specific Black and African American national virtual meeting. We do a Spanish and English speaking virtual national meeting, an API specific meeting, a military families meeting. We just started, which I know you're based in Seattle, may have some interest in that at some point. We just started a Indigenous Parents Council to start figuring out what we need to do in Indian country to do a better job there. We have started a dads specific virtual national meeting and then a gender fluid specific meeting. One of the things those are so helpful in, besides just some people don't want to go to a meeting, right? Some people don't want to, if they're in a small town, maybe they're not ready yet. But because of there's such an influx now of parents with trans non-binary kids. They're looking for as much support as they can get. So being able to do a local support meeting that may or may not have all the information they need, they can then bump over to one of the virtual meetings that may have more information. The strength of that local meeting, however, is those parents or queer folks there, they know which doctors are best, right? They know which school administrators are supportive. Like, there's more intel at that local level for them, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question on a little more?
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Absolutely. I think there are a lot of people who maybe have heard PFLAG, like we've talked about it on the show a few times before, but don't actually like when the boots hit the ground. What is it like? To attend. That's helpful.
Going back to something you said earlier. Sorry, I've had a lot of caffeine and it's 5 o'clock here. So, one of the challenges, because of the new world we're living in right now, I do think a lot of people think of PFLAG as, parades, bunny rabbits, and unicorns. First of all, that's not necessarily where that parade is. Not where that parent may have started out. Right? That was part of a journey for many of those parents to be in that parade. So it's a big deal for them too, right? Not just for their kid. But convincing people that we do more than just support has also been one of our challenges, because I do think parents' voices are uniquely situated in this day and time to help brunt some of what's going on out there. And especially on the legislative side, not getting into politics here at all, but, like when a parent from a state rep district or a state senate district or a congressional district or a senate goes in to see a member, they can look them stereotyping a little bit here, but eye to eye, parent to parent, say, leave my kid alone. Why are you doing this? And to help educate that legislator on, and I think, by the way, that's a long game. People should not be under that false assumption that just going in and telling a story, all of a sudden the legislator is going to turn around, right? We know what those folks, many of them are like, right? What I would say is it's a long game there too, and it's a long game for any of the bills we want passed, right? It's a ladder of engagement. It's maybe after that state rep who's voted against us, and he's not going to get put out of office because that district is gerrymandered or the way it is. So how do you humanize us, right? And so maybe that first time around, that legislator still votes against us from that safe district, but maybe he doesn't put out a press release, he or she doesn't put out a press release making us Satan, right?
Yeah.
Kids see that, right? Maybe a few years later, if you keep those conversations going, maybe that legislator says, "Oh, let's just kill that committee, or let's not bring that up. Let's do what we like to do, other things." It may take 10 years, but maybe you do get to a point where that legislator actually votes for something. When Don't Ask, Don't Tell, or when marriage, just a couple of years ago, when marriage was passed, there were Republican senators that before had been no on stuff. Few, not a lot, but there were some, because conversations had been had. I'm not saying it's going to work in the majority of those. We don't have to have the majority of them.
Yeah.
We have our progressive side. We have to pull some of those from the conservative side into the middle.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask a little bit more about the advocacy work that you do. Is it mainly on the at the local level that you have parents that belong to PFLAG speaking with legislators?
It's all of the above, but I would say the bulk of it is at the state level. State after state this year, as bad bills, some 500 plus bad bills this year. In many cases, we've asked parents to go in either to be part of a lobby day. We don't lobby, so education, right? To go and tell your story, and or to literally go meet quietly with members. Putting out a press release that you just met with whoever is not maybe going to be the most helpful thing. So there's a lot of quiet conversations going on to try to move some of these folks along and try to humanize the story. As you know, school boards, library boards, those are also kind of a hot button issue, are a hot button issue right now. And I will say on the federal level, just because of the dynamics of the House right now, there are a select group of members that conversations are probably helpful or can be a little bit helpful with. Usually the speaker, whoever controls the speakership, controls so much, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but because the margin is so thin in the House right now, and because some of those less conservative or less liberal districts or less liberal members are in districts that are swingable, they at least have to take our call. Right. And it's up to the voters then to decide if this person is actually representing them or not. But at least we're able in a few of those targeted areas to have some conversations, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm curious about the phrase that you used, "we don't lobby." That sounded like that's as a matter of policy. Can you say more about the strategy there? That's a choice that the organization has made. Like, what's the thought there?
So we are a C3, a 501c3, as are all PFLAG chapters. So, we have to be very careful about not getting into partisan politics. So that's kind of the short version of it. We can talk about bills and the impact of a bill on our community, but we can't tell people who to vote. That's part of that. I think part of that decision was made well before I was here. But I think part of that has been so that PFLAG, part of our job is to meet people where they are. Guess what? Conservatives have queer kids in their family too. They may not know it, but they do, right? So part of the thinking was to stay in the C3 space as opposed to partisan politics. There's plenty of groups that do that, so that it allows us potentially the opportunity to have conversations to move the ball forward internally where others may not, that would then take a more partisan stance on an issue. It doesn't mean we can't call out bad people or people who are hurting us. I just can't tell people whom to vote for. For instance, in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race recently, we did basically a small campaign on look what's at stake.
Yeah.
Here's the issues that are at stake. Read up on these too. Here's where you can find out more. Right. So it's kind of like that version.
Yeah. Yeah. Sort of changing tack here a little bit. I sense a greater and greater amount of hostility and therefore danger in our climate. And it makes me wonder about the security of these local chapters. Does PFLAG provide guidance or resources or ideas on what to do if the villagers storm the barn with their pitchforks when a local chapter has a meeting?
Yeah, it's that's probably not just now, but over the last several years now has become an even more of a issue for us. This dehumanizing of our democracy, if you will, has created a lot of risk. The targeting, especially of our trans family members and friends, has created more risk. So a lot of the chapters, all the chapters, have little processes in place on how somebody's brought into a meeting. I do know of, at least I know, I've heard stories of chapters that have security guards now. Wow. One of our chapters in South Carolina, this individual who is a great PFLAGger who passed in a car wreck actually was a security guard abilities and was just kind of set outside their meeting, prepared for anything that might happen. We even here at the headquarters, for security have changed our protocols. Most people wouldn't probably come after us, but we've changed our protocols. We've taken, board down off the list, off the website, direct names because of, and most of the staff to protect them as well. It's a real risk out there. And, we have done various educational tools on how members can be prepared, both to ensure nothing happens, but what to do if something does happen. That's the reality of where we're at. It goes back to, what I was saying. We need more people speaking out, but we need them to be able to do it safely. So that's kind of a catch right there, right? I mean, once you put yourself out there, there's some not so nice people out there. Thank you for asking. I'm sorry. Thank you for asking that, though, because it's really, safety is a huge priority for us right now.
I imagine so. Yeah. Yeah.
How do people tend to find out about PFLAG? Do they find out from their queer child, or are they finding out about it from other sources?
Multiple avenues. I think it's one of the areas we actually need to be doing better at and trying to figure out how to do that better, right? Of making sure people know. Right now, I would say it is definitely a lot of word of mouth or one of the benefits, if you will, around this new social world, with social media is getting things out there about PFLAG, where we are, all that. Clearly, in these small communities, people are finding out about us. And it's interesting, PFLAG plays a different role depending on where they're located. When I'm talking about some of these smaller chapters, for instance, they really do become the community center, if you will, the safe space for queer folks to go to. And it was kind of interesting. And I actually never had put my head around this until I started working here. But it's such a great thing that there are queer folks at PFLAG meetings for parents to talk to, right? Like it's not just parents at the meetings, right? It's queer folks as well, who different ages, who have been on a journey or who have seen it all, who are able to have conversations with those parents as well. So, but back to your original question, sorry. It's just multiple avenues, but I do think we need to, which is why I'm really grateful you're giving us some time today, because we, especially now, if people need support, if they're, with all these bills, especially if they're afraid for their kids and or their family members or their friends, we want them to be able to go to a support meeting if it's helpful to them. If they want to do something about it right now, if they want to get into the street, we want to try to help give them options to do that in a targeted way. That's a long game here, both again short-term mitigation, long-term foundation building.
I imagine showing up to your first meeting can be anxiety inducing and a scary kind of first step that seems valuable, but maybe challenging for some people. What would you say to someone who's interested but nervous?
I think that's a very real feeling, right? And I would say, please do it. And the only experience I can share like that, again, was going to my first AA meeting, walking in by myself, and humbling myself, right? In a room of folks I didn't know. And think about it. And again, a lot of our chapters are smaller places. They may know somebody in that room, right? Mm-hmm. They will get the support and love they need if they walk in that room. It's that first step. And it's a big step. And that's also why I think some of the virtual options help people kind of take the baby steps maybe to do that. But it's well worth that first step. But again, only all I can speak from is from what I hear, but also from my own experience of walking into a meeting where I needed help. And that's a humbling experience where, human beings don't like to do that at times. And, but I promise them once they have had the chance to meet folks and hear other people's journeys, it will change their life in many ways. If I could, I went to when I first started, we have an API specific chapter in San Gabriel Valley, which is an amazing chapter. And I'm going to get some of the information wrong here, but you'll get the gist of it. There were I believe she was a Korean mom, walked into the meeting, had never been to a PFLAG meeting before, had a trans kid. I saw her she was talking to a couple of people, and then she kind of went and sat by herself in the circle, and it got to her very broken English. Within 3 minutes, there were 3 Korean moms over there talking to her. Mm-hmm. And it was just the most lifting thing experience I've had. You know what I mean? Like just and it's something we are working on. If I'm going to bear out truths here, we are on a journey now because PFLAG is made up of the most incredible people, but we're not necessarily touching all communities the way we should be. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that is an educational process that we are starting now. Should we have started it 10 years ago? Yes. But we are starting it now with putting the building blocks in place to ensure that, to your point, if somebody walks into a PFLAG meeting, if they're a Black mom, it's an all white room, that doesn't right there. That may not seem very welcoming. Yeah. It may be, it may not be. Another story that came up in some of this planning we've been doing is an immigrant mom walking into a meeting may or may not want 2 or 3 moms coming up to her, or dads coming up to her right away and say, "Hey, we're so glad you're here." Yeah. Right? So we're on a journey right now. One of my goals, certainly one of the goals of the board and the team here, is how do we ensure that we're setting a path to make every person feel welcome and supported at PFLAG. And that's a long game too, right? That's a lifelong process, but we're committed to that because it literally is so needed right now.
Yeah.
You talked about earlier saying that there are no stupid questions when you're at a PFLAG meeting. Do you find with new folks there are certain things that you are educating people on consistently? Are there common themes or questions that come up when new people show up at PFLAG meetings?
You have to understand, probably when I go to a meeting, I get a different view because it's like I'm there. So it's like the tenor changes a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I would anecdotally, I think you're seeing a lot of first questions, if you will, from parents around gender affirming care, around how best to support their trans non-binary kid, safety, and for all the parents like that come in that are looking for support versus advocacy, it's what's that signal look like for them that their kid's going to be okay, and that they're doing the best they can for their kid, right, and that they are supporting them the best they can. So, like I think in one of our grandparents support meetings, there's a whole discussion around pronouns, right? And interesting enough, some of these grandparents are pretty fierce. And I think you're going to see a few more grandparents out there on the front line of this who are just like, screw it, that's my grandkid, period. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Again, we're at a place that there is still tons of work that needs to be done in big parts of this country. But we're also seeing a shift of, I love my kid. What do we got to do? Right?
Yeah. That's
why why my glass is half full, going back to your original point on that a few minutes ago, because it's there. The special sauce is there. It's just, how do we get there? right?
Yeah. So I've mentioned how hard it is to stay optimistic given everything. So I'm gonna ask you for some glurge, I guess. Trump's been president for almost 120 days. What's the best thing that's happened in the last 120 days? The biggest success story, or the thing that's inspired you most about PFLAG?
That's a good question. I think a lot of things. When we, I think we are lead plaintiff in a suit against the administration. It's PFLAG v. Trump. It's probably one of the scariest things we've done as an organization for safety reasons, all kinds of potential risk down the road from a very hostile administration. I have not heard one PFLAGger today say you should not have done that. Not one. It's like, if not now, when, right? Kind of that whole, it's not who, that whole line, and again, going back to, such a time as this, right? I think that's, people are terrified, and rightfully so, but they're willing to do stuff too, right? We just got to figure out how to make sure people are as safe as possible during this process. And then those that are able, step up and use their voice, use their privilege if they have it, to try to make a difference here. The courts have been relatively okay here.
Yeah.
We'll see. Scrimeti will be in June. We'll see what they do with that, the Supreme Court, that is. It's hard to believe it hasn't even been a year yet. But I think, it took a couple of years for the Trump fatigue to set in last time. I think it will be much sooner this time. And I think people are getting their footing. I think they're trying to figure out how best to fight back. Only thing I can do is do what we can do, right? We can't control that. What I can control is trying to provide as best support possible for our community through PFLAG, and figure out the best ways to take advantage of that door that's been opened up for a longer game here of how do we not step in this again.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the long game, what do you envision for PFLAG's future? If you look down the line, a year, even 10 years, 20 years into the future, how do you see PFLAG changing?
50 years from now, I would like to see PFLAG just to be a social club. But unfortunately, in the next 10, 20 years, I think we are extremely needed and candidly one of the best resources for the community, utilizing those parents' voices and family voices in this fight. What I hope people will see is the benefit of those voices, and not just see us as bunny rabbits and unicorns, right? Mm-hmm. And see us as a force in every zip code. I mean, not every zip code, but wherever there's a Walmart, we're there, right? It's like we are everywhere. And again, some of them are really small little chapters, and some of them are much bigger. But each of them has a footprint in their community, and are able to have conversations that I can't have, that people in Washington, D.C. can't have. So I think making sure we're able to support them, making sure that we get just enough members in Congress and in these state legislatures to either stop stuff or to start moving the ball forward.
Brian, any last thoughts before we go to a break here?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity. I get a little wound up and a little excited about the work that PFLAG's doing. I wish folks could go to some of those meetings and or see the work being done on the ground, even at Pride events. But one story before you go to break, I went to Cape Girardeau, Missouri, home of Rush Limbaugh. A couple years ago, I went to a parade they were having. They wanted me to join them in a parade. It was not the Pride parade. It was the Southeast Missouri State University homecoming parade.
Oh, wow.
Marching through Fraternity Row. Marching in an area that gave Trump 80% of the vote. And I asked one of the moms, I said, why are we here? I mean, I knew why we were here, but I just really wanted to hear what she had to say. Her response was, this is where we need to be.
Yeah.
So as much as I talk about we're more than parades, that visibility in areas that don't necessarily see us or have different opinions of us, that's impactful, because I saw in the people in the PFLAG delegation, they saw community members they knew in this town, waved at them as they were walking along, said, hey, Frank, how you doing? You know, like stuff like that. Just that impact. This is where we need to be. That's what's going to change stuff.
I'm fond of saying it that it is easy to hate an idea, but it's hard to hate a person. So if you can be a person for somebody, that moves the needle in so many important ways. If you feel safe to be a person for somebody. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. Should we take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
Okay, let's take a break.
This is the part where Mike and Kyle take a break.
So are we back?
We're back.
We're back.
We are going to do our Gayest and Straightest.
We're going to do our Gayest and Straightest. But first, Brian Bond, PFLAG, where can people find out more about you, about the organization? Just tell us all the things.
Sure. Thank you again for having me today. I really appreciate it. And for giving me the chance to talk about the incredible work that PFLAG does. What I would ask is if anybody's on that journey in supporting their kid, a family member, a colleague, whatever that may be, please go to pflag.org. You can also, once you get to the website, you can find a chapter in your local area. You can find virtual meetings. If you prefer to go to a Black and African American meeting, a Spanish speaking meeting, a API specific meeting, a military families, a dad's meeting, a grandparents meeting, whatever it is, you can find it there. You will not regret finding ways to love your kid and the gifts it will bring to you. So please take advantage of that. And if you are interested in getting more engaged in PFLAG and being part of our advocacy component, please, again, go to our website, let me know, reach out to me, whatever that may look like. And so we can plug you in to the work that's being done on the ground. You do not have to be a member of a chapter to do PFLAG work. You have to be somebody who cares about this community and your family, your colleagues, your friends, your kids, and join us.
That's so wonderful. Thank you. Well, our website is gayishpodcast.com.
We are on social media at Gayish Podcast.
Our hotline, where you can send us text messages or leave us voicemails, is 5855-GAYISH. That's 585-542-9474. Standard rates apply.
Our email is gayishpodcast@gmail.com.
And our physical mailing address is Post Office Box 19882, Seattle, Washington, 98109. Quick programming note, we are going to be at Charlie's Queer Books coming up here on Friday, May the 30th. Please come join us, listen to our reading, meet some fellow gayish book fans, and then after that, we're going to be going out with the boys from Minority Report are going to be in town. Details coming. Look on our socials for that. But we're going to have a meet and greet. Get our two crazy audiences together.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Join us at 7 p.m. Pacific at Charlie's.
In Fremont, in Seattle, Washington. Okay, Kyle, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. My Gayest has been wearing a jockstrap most days this week.
Great. Can I predict your straightest after that?
No, you're never going to guess it.
Oh, okay, great.
What do you think it was going to be?
Your straightest is because you ran out of underwear because you
been
doing laundry.
No, those things were unrelated to each other.
Okay, great.
My straightest was using a condom.
Oh wow, Kyle.
Some guy was like, would you mind using a condom? I was like, no, not at all. Do you have any though? So yeah, protect, wrap it up.
Yep.
What about you, Mike?
Well, the straightest thing about me this week was I went home to Eastern Washington for the weekend and saw Mom and Grandpa and my family. And I just, you know, every time I'm in that environment, that's red part of the universe. That's Trump country, and I butch it up a little bit. I get my straight act together, so to speak, and not too bad. They're pretty. My family, especially, is like welcoming and nice. But you notice. You know, don't be too gay.
Yeah, for sure.
But then the gayest thing about me this week was last night, Mom and I went out to a bar right by her house and had dinner. And she was like, "That waiter's kind of cute, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, that waiter's kind of cute. Do you think we can get him to take his shirt off?" and then Mom, being Mom, asked one of the waitresses if we could get a shirtless waiter.
Oh my God.
Love you, Mom. Well, Brian, how about you? What's your gayest and straightest?
I'm still stuck on Kyle's answers. I'm not sure where to go. I was going to sound, yeah, okay. I think my gayest, and maybe I'm stereotyping here wrongly, but I have a 14-year-old min pin named Windsor that gets dressed up for every holiday.
Oh,
yeah. Own outfits for every single holiday, and even some non-holidays. He gets more social hits than I do. He hates it, but he's a ham once he gets a piece of turkey and has to pose. But my goal is to do him as the baby Jesus in a manger and pray I don't go to hell for it. But that's down the road. My
costume changes for pets is absolutely in that's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I literally have five huge plastic tubs of his outfits.
Wow.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And my straightest thing, I don't know what to say here. I mean, I love the St. Louis Cardinals. I guess this is not to be morbid at all, but my father passed away a month ago, and I had to go back to rural Missouri for his funeral. And even my brother was concerned about what I was going to wear for the funeral, because it was in a very small town. And the straightest thing I did was wear plain black socks with my suit instead of the many colored socks that I have, just to try to butch it up just slightly. But I did do a bow tie. So
okay.
Well, and sorry for your loss.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, okay, Brian, thank you so much for being on and telling us all about PFLAG. I just really appreciate you and your energy and the work that you're doing for all of us.
Thank you for having me. Truly appreciate it. Come join us.
And I want to thank our Super Gap Bridgers. Thank you to Locomotive, Simon Srirachi, Kaylee Adams, Kid Oliver, Kobe Gordon, Squaggle, Pip, Andrew Bugby, William Bryant, John Crowley, Yost Osel, Jonathan Montanius, Forrest Nail, Steve Douglas, Explosive Lasagna, Michael Covington, Thomas B., Dusty Sands, A. Coleman, Chris Cacciatorians, Jerome York, and Cian and Javi. Thank you for your support.
Thank you for your money. That's it. This has been Gayish from the Chris Cacciatorian Studios. I'm Mike Johnson.
I'm Kyle Getz. Until next week, be butch, be fabulous, be you. See ya.
See you next week. My mic's being stupid. Okay.